Good morning, everyone. This is Margie Dean Gray. I'm the host of Notes and Notables, and thank you so much for joining me. And hopefully you'll join me for the next 30 minutes because we have a fun guest in hand. But before I get to introduce my special guest for the day, I wanted to remind you all that today is the first day of the Spring to Summer Pledge Drive. And for those of you who haven't ever had the opportunity of pledging something to KDUR, this is a wonderful opportunity. They do such a great job, not only on campus, but in our community. And I hope that you will send in something to support them. They really work hard to make sure that the programming that you hear every day is just top notch. So just wanted to plug that in because it's very, very important. So I do have a very special guest, and he has a lot of parameters to him that we're going to try to hit as many as we can over the time. As you know, this time goes very quickly. But my guest today is Dr. Ryan Haaland, and he is the chair of the Physics Engineering Department here in Fort Lewis. And the reason why I thought it was really important for Ryan to come and talk with you today is because we have a major project that we're hoping will be going to fruition sometime in the next couple of years. But Ryan, if anybody knows more about this building than probably anyone on campus, and it's really important for you all to learn how critical having this building is. However, before we get to that, I really want you to learn a little bit more about Ryan. So Ryan, welcome.
Thank you, Margie. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm thrilled that you're here, and I'm really excited to hear more about the GPE building. And so we're going to just give you that hint, GPE, and you all have to figure that out in a few minutes. You know, Ryan, one of the things I love doing with this show is learning a little bit more about our guests. You know, we see you in a persona as a professor here on campus, especially in physics and engineering. That's very, way up here as far as I'm concerned. And so a lot of people don't know you personally, and so this is a chance for them to get to know a little bit more about your background. So when they see you at City Market, they say, "Hey, Ryan, I heard that interview, and I didn't know that about you. How wonderful!" And I learned so much about my guests through this. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where do you hail from?
Oh, I hail from Minnesota. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere. I like to say, if you've ever listened to Prairie Home Companion, you've heard Garrison Keillor talking about my entire family. So I grew up on a farm in the Midwest. My father farmed and taught high school. So I think that's where I first gained my love for technology, science, being out on the farm, working on things, fixing things. And then my dad's love of education, I think, also rubbed off on me. So that's where I think the combination of being in the sciences and being a teacher came from my family, my dad in particular.
Did your dad teach in the sciences as well?
No, it's interesting. He was a history and a geography teacher in high school. I'm the only member of my family, my immediate family, in the sciences, so I'm not sure quite where that came in.
Well, let me ask you, going back to this, your upbringing, was it a small high school?
Very small. 48 students in my graduating class.
Wow. So did they have enough there to challenge you? I mean, that doesn't say anything about small high schools, because they can be absolutely fabulous because you get more attention. But, someone going into the sciences, especially you in physics and engineering, I know your background is physics, did that kind of floor people because they didn't have enough to really challenge you, or was there enough there?
Well, I think, Minnesota is known for its fairly good high school education based on the way the state is structured from a tax standpoint. But I had the same teacher for every single math and science class from freshman year on through my senior year. And he was very formative in inspiring me to be in the sciences and to do math and computing and what have you. So I can remember him vividly to this day, and he was a good teacher, and I think he was part of what inspired me. We were fortunate as a very, very small school to still be able to have and to offer courses in chemistry and physics and mathematics. So I guess I was lucky there.
So was he sort of pushing you or encouraging you toward physics, or just the sciences in general?
Sciences in general. I do remember all of my high school teachers very well. I can visualize them. So I think they were just, it was a couple of people that really were enthusiastic about their fields, and that rubbed off on me, I think.
Mm-hmm. And so what sort of interested you most in physics versus some of the other?
Well, I think I originally thought in going to college that I wanted to be an engineer. I had no reason to go to that in particular. I just thought it was neat. I liked I liked space as a young kid. I liked airplanes as a young kid, and I thought I want to be an engineer and build those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think going to college then changed some of my perspective, and there's a different path to how I ended up in physics. I decided that engineering wasn't for me, and probably made all the decision for all the wrong reasons. I made some really good friends at the college I started at, and I wanted to stay there at that very small liberal arts college. So that forced me to choose physics because they didn't have engineering there. So I kind of lucked into it, I guess.
So where did you go to college?
I went to a small liberal arts school in Minnesota, Concordia College.
Oh, sure.
They're probably more
Absolutely.
well known for their choir than they are for physics, but it was a very formative place for me. My father went there. My brother also, who's a year younger than I, went there. And so it's a family tradition that in our family to go there. I have nieces there now. And I really, there more than any other place, I think, inspired me to enjoy physics and to become a physicist. I really don't like to use that term, but I do enjoy physics, and that's where it all started for me, I think.
Well, I think, sometimes going to a small liberal arts college like Fort Lewis, it sort of opens up a lot of things that maybe you weren't looking at necessarily. So do you feel the kinship to Fort Lewis because you did go to a small liberal arts college?
Absolutely. I think that's, when I was making the transition from teaching at the Air Force Academy to my next career in academia, I was completely biased by my desire to be at a small liberal arts college, much like the one that I attended. And that shaped my view and has shaped my view of education very dramatically. And so I agree with you. I think the liberal arts tradition, even though it is dynamic and changing, is an important one for preparing young men and women for the future that allows them to go in many different directions and get many different get exposure to many different ideas that allow them to explore the world.
Well, you mentioned a couple things I wanted to kind of go back on. One, the Air Force Academy, and I know that you did teach there. But after you finished Concordia, what was your next step?
Well, I was I was trying to finance my way through private liberal arts college, which was not easy for us. My dad was a teacher, and we farmed, and we didn't make a lot of money at either of those, and I didn't really want to go into debt. So I saw a fellow on campus one day wearing an Air Force uniform, and so I applied for an Air Force. I asked him why he was wearing a uniform, and he told me he was an ROTC cadet and was on scholarship. So I had applied for an ROTC scholarship. I received a 3-year ROTC scholarship, and the commitment for getting that scholarship was to serve in the Air Force for 4 years after that. And I thought, well, I'll do my 4 years and then see what happens and move on. And lo and behold, 21 years later, I was still in the Air Force, and the Air Force had sponsored me for both my master's and doctoral degrees. And I told myself that I would get out of the Air Force when I stopped really enjoying what I was doing, and that never happened until it was time to retire. So.
And so what did you teach then at the academy?
I taught physics predominantly.
Mm-hmm.
I was heavily involved in interdisciplinary work there with engineering programs, primarily in building small satellites and flying small satellites and putting payloads on small satellites. So that was more of my research bent at that time.
As you look back, did you think when you were a youngster or in high school, a small high school, 48 in your class, that you would end up at the Air Force Academy teaching there? I mean, that's one of the most prestigious colleges in the country, certainly, and I think that's really very exciting.
Well, I have a very vivid memory of it one summer where the Air Force, I was between my junior and senior year of college, and the Air Force was sending me to some summer training in California, so I drove from Minnesota to California and made my very first visit to Colorado on that journey. And I remember it vividly. I was driving through the Front Range, and I pulled into the Air Force Academy just to visit as a tourist. And I looked over the edge there, and I saw the beauty of the place and the institution. I said to myself, I'm going to teach here someday.
Oh, that's great.
And so we kept driving that day, and we ended up, I had friends living in Durango here, and we pulled in at night and it was dark. I couldn't see anything. I woke up the next day, and that we were staying at a place up the valley. I woke up the next morning, walked outside, and said to myself, I'm going to live here someday. And that was sort of that day dictated the next 30 years of my life in terms of where I wanted to be and where I ended up. So
Isn't that amazing? Did your feelings change at all? I mean, once you got to the academy, it was like, you know what? Yep, this is my home. I feel comfortable here. This is what I should be doing.
Well, the Air Force and the big government organizations tend to be very bureaucratic, and there's always a little bit of tarnish on some of that shine when you realize how things are dictated and controlled in the government, and that's fine. But I really always enjoyed my time in the classroom and being with the students there. That's what it's all about for me, is the students.
Mm-hmm.
And students are great no matter where you go. I'm convinced of that. We try not to get in their way, but in the most part, I think our students at the academy and students here are fabulous, and that's why I teach.
But very different. I mean, with the academy, it's very strict. They've got rules and regulations. Here, it's like, most colleges as well.
This really happened to me my first year here. I went from the academy, where when I walked into my classroom, the students came to attention and one of them saluted me, to Fort Lewis, where a student came into my office one day and said, dude, I don't get this problem. So, I was fine with that. It is a vastly different environment, and no one is better than the other, just different. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy them both. I've enjoyed them both.
Have you found yourself change because of going from something as strict as an academy to Fort Lewis, where it is, as I said, a little bit looser? I mean, did you kind of come in with sort of one aspect of your life, and now you've sort of changed because you've had the more freedom, maybe?
Perhaps I like to think that I was a little bit more constrained when I was in the military, forcing to wear my uniform and stuff, and that wasn't necessarily me, and I felt more free to be me when I got here, I think. So it's all good from my perspective.
So when you walk in the door up with your first class here at Fort Lewis in teaching sort of a totally different way, what was your first thought when you sort of, this really is different from the military?
Well, I think just the variety of faces, the age difference of the students, because the academy is very lockstep. Students come in right out of high school and finish in 4 years. And I really appreciated the diversity of our classrooms here. Mm-hmm. That was something that was very new to me, where you have working parents in your classroom along with recent high school graduates. And I think that's a great, great diversity to have in the way we do things here. So I enjoy that a lot.
Well, if you're just tuning in, this is Margie Dean Gray with Notes and Notables on KDUR, and today, don't forget, is the beginning of the Spring into Summer Pledge Drive, and we want to make sure that you're part of this family, so continue to give, because we need all the help that we can get here. And my special guest today is Dr. Ryan Haaland, who is the chair of the Physics Engineering Department here, and he's been telling us a little bit about his background, which is fascinating. And if you haven't, you're going to have to listen to the show again later down the line. But we're also going to be talking a little bit about the Geosciences Physics Engineering building that Ryan is a major component. He really is one of the leaders of this campaign to get this building built here on campus. So I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about that as well. So thank you for joining us, and I think you're going to have a great time listening to Ryan and all the things he has to offer. So let me ask you, how long have you actually been teaching here at Fort Lewis?
This is my 8th year.
8th year. And do you plan to just, till you sort of see that last book on your shelf, be here till that, or do you have any plans for leaving? Or
No. I think we've got to get this building going, and we need it here desperately. And when I became chair of the program in fall of 2010, we started our new Bachelor of Science and Engineering program that year. And I made a commitment to myself that my major goals for our program was to see that program accredited. And we've had our accrediting body ABET visit last fall, and that visit went very, very well. And we'll get the final answer on that accreditation this coming summer. But I also, we had been working on and planning for this building as far back as 2009. And I really wanted to see that through, and I have no intention of even thinking about leaving until we get that building here on campus, because we need it and we deserve it as a program. Our programs in that building deserve it. So.
Well, I understand because I'm working obviously with you all on this for raising money, but that we started the program for engineering with about 90 students with I think a wait list, and now I think you want to get it up to at least into the 300s. Is that right?
We think we're at around 275 students
Mm-hmm.
total for all three programs: the physics, the engineering physics, and general engineering. And we've had 100 plus new students a year for the last 2 years, and we simply cannot sustain that growth in terms of with our current infrastructure here. We think with the new building we could sustain up to 350 or 400 students perhaps, and we think that is the right size for us. I think we at Fort Lewis College, and in particular our program here at Fort Lewis College, we really offer not only the region but the state a unique experience for our students. We're not the big campuses you find at CEU or CSU, and nothing against those programs, but we are a very personalized approach to the engineering discipline and the physics discipline. And so our students know us. We don't have TAs. If they have a problem in my class, they come and see me. And we think that's important, and that's part of our identity. And part of why we have grown so rapidly is that I think students are recognizing that. And some students enjoy the big campus environment, but some students really thrive in who we are. So we think that that number of 350 to 400 students allows us to keep our identity and what has made us unique in the region and in the state of Colorado.
So let me ask you, how many students do you think we might lose by not having a new building?
It's very difficult to say. At the current number of 250 or so students, 275 students, we are really at capacity in terms of having spaces for them to do their coursework, in terms of having space to do their senior projects and research. So, without the building, I would hate to say we'd have to start turning people away, but that's kind of where we are at. I mean, we are at capacity now. And so you could argue that if we have 20 leave the program this year, graduating year, then we could only take another 20, 30 more in the fall. So that's a big difference from 100 that we were able to take in the last 2 years, each year.
Are you finding at all that the students who are currently in the program, because there isn't the growth yet that we hope it will be for the building and everything else that they need, that they're saying, gosh, maybe I should consider going someplace else?
Well, our students, I think have been very, very mature beyond their years. When ABET came in to accredit us, they interviewed students without us there, and they interviewed our administration from me all the way up to President Thomas. And one of their very positive comments to us was they have never been at an institution where the vision was so coherent. And that means from the students on up to President Thomas, where everybody had the same view of the future. And those students they interviewed exhibited maturity and patience beyond their years, I would like to say, because they understand that the current situation is not sustainable in this current building, but they expressed that they saw the vision of where the program is going, and they wanted to be a part of that.
That's exciting.
And it's very exciting, and it frankly, reflected very well on our institution. However, we can't ask students to wait forever. Mm-hmm. And, it's one thing to say, well, we might get a new building down the road, but to have that, to see those shovels in the ground out there and to see change happening is very, I think, inspirational for those students who have been, frankly, very patient with our current situation. It's far from ideal over there.
Right. I know that, we've had these ups and downs with the state going, yes, you're going to get it, no, you're not going to get it. And the last few weeks, it's been really kind of a little bit wacky. Do you have a sense in talking maybe with the administration that the last I read, it was very positive, that they thought that they might be able to kind of turn over, some of the choices that were made a couple of weeks ago about the building. Are you still getting that positive sense?
I think President Thomas and Provost Morris and Dean Brandon have all been very, very supportive of this project from the beginning. And I think, I have nothing but confidence in their ability to influence the right people in Denver and to help make this happen. They understand as well as anybody on campus the critical need, and that is what gives me confidence in our program. And part of why I'm so passionate about what we're doing here is I really think they are going to help us make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be confident, and we have to be willing to fight for it. And I think President Thomas in particular, along with Vice President Schwartz, have worked very hard in Denver to help see this through. Now, it has been a rough patch and this last couple of weeks, and it's been very frustrating from my end. My view is from in the trenches. It's in the classroom.
But that's where it's all, that's where it's the most important.
Right. And, part of me really wants to walk into some legislature's office and say, this is what the real world is like down there in Fort Lewis in our classrooms, and this is why our need is so desperate. And so if asked, I'll do that.
Good. It's really sort of a shame because, one of the things that Fort Lewis has so many wonderful majors that will get these students on into their life, their business life professionally. And the sciences, of course, are so critical to all of us. And to not have the opportunity to have a building where these students can grow and can become the future leaders in the sciences and have jobs, which is, as important, if not more important, knowing that they can go from here right into a job, to me just is heartbreaking that if we can't do this. And I know that the foundation's going to do its darndest to make sure that we raise money. In fact, I'll be heading down to Phoenix this weekend to try to see if we can pull some money in. But what would you like to say to the audience about this? Because you are so passionate about this. One of the reasons why I wanted to get you on the show, because you're living this, but you're not living this just because you have to, because you want to.
Well, I think, at the end of the day, it's really about, as you mentioned, giving students opportunity to succeed down the road. And I really think our students, all of our Fort Lewis students, but in particular, our students in the sciences and engineering, have had and are having very, very positive impacts on the world the second they walk out the door. Even before that, we have students who are undergraduates with their names on patents with NASA.
Wow.
I mean, these are people that are going out into the world already with publications and names on patents, and that's amazing to me. And it's, again, at the end of the day, it's about the students that we push out into the real world and have them hopefully make positive change. And that's why I'm here. And I think that's why most of us here are teaching here at Fort Lewis. And we believe in our students and what they're capable of. And we have, we'll let their employers in the region and in the nation tell us how good they are. But I think they're having a real positive impact on both the local and regional economies. I think we can document that and make that argument very easily to anybody who would doubt the value of what we do here. So, every day I may be frustrated by the political vagaries of what's going on, but when I walk into the classroom, that all goes away because I know these students really care and they're working very hard to achieve what they set out to do. So that's inspiring to me.
Unfortunately, I think that we have a very supportive community for everything that Fort Lewis does, but when it's an academic building, they don't have quite that connection they might have to a student union or some place that they might be actually using the concert hall, that kind of thing. So you just mentioned it. I mean, this is going to boost the economy. Do you think it would be helpful to have some of our students go down and talk to some of our leaders in the community saying, what you don't realize is that the whole community is going to be affected if we can get this building going, because it brings in more students, which brings in, of course, families and all those other things. Have we talked about the possibility of trying to get students together with community leaders?
We've not done that, and that's perhaps a great idea. The whole campus, I think, has done some things to reach out to the community, and I'm thinking primarily of the Discovery Museum and the number of different talks that a number of faculty have given down there. The sciences are not very portable, and I think to really make that story compelling, we need to show people, not just talk about the science and engineering we're doing, but show them. And that's why I would like to suggest perhaps the opposite, and that is to invite the community up to our campus here and show them all the amazing things that our students and faculty are doing in our programs here, and just have them, wowed by what's going on. And they will be amazed. I predict the community would be amazed by what they see. And that, to me, would help compel everybody to understand how, again, our students are doing great things. They are deserving of a great facility in which to do those things.
Well, you know what? I'm going to work on this with you. Because I
Great.
think this
Let's
would be
do it.
something that we really should do. And I think the community would be shocked. I mean, they know how wonderful Fort Lewis is. But, things change almost sometimes on a daily basis. And I think if we can educate them saying, this is your school too, this is your part of this family, maybe they'll be a little bit softer when when I go out and say, hey, how would you like to help us financially?
Any day of the week, I'm available to give tours and talk about all the wonderful things our faculty and students are doing in our programs.
Well, I'm going to take you on with that.
Absolutely.
Well,
Bring them on up.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, if you're listening here and you want to be part of this, just give me a call at 247-7177. We'd love to have you part of this, and just to see how special this college is, and how special professors like you are, Ryan. You have done such an amazing job in the 8 years that you've been here, and sort of not only teaching the students, but making them feel like they are contributing, and they will be contributing to this community as well as the national community and international community. So thanks for your hard work, and I'm thrilled that you're going to be one of the leaders of this push forward for the GPE building. So thanks.
You're
for
welcome,
being here.
and thank you, Margie.
So, as I said to you all, thank you for joining us, and hopefully you've learned a lot of wonderful things about Ryan Haaland, and he's serious. He's certainly willing to give you a tour of the physics engineering section of the college and show you just what you can do to help make it a better place for not only the current students, but students that are coming along. So thanks again for joining us. Don't forget that this is the beginning of the Pledge Week, and I hope that you will consider giving to KDUR. Thanks, and have a great day.